Today I want to share with you a passage from Isaiah chapter 35. Now, when we went through the whole Bible, I don't have time to get into great detail about each book in the Bible, but an interesting note for those of you who want to dig a little deeper is after you watch this video, if you look in your Bible and if you read Isaiah 35 verses 1 through 10, and then go by chapters 36, 37, 38, and 39, read the end of Isaiah chapter 35, and then immediately begin to read chapter 40, and see if it doesn't flow together very smoothly, more smoothly than it does with those chapters stuck in between them. It's interesting that Isaiah 36 through the end of chapter 39, except for part of chapter 38, it's basically just a repeat. It duplicates what's found in 2 Kings in chapters 18 to 20. So it's interesting that this got dropped in there. But I want to direct your attention to Isaiah 35, which is a lovely vision of Zion being restored. Again, after the time of the exile, when the Israelites, they were carried off to Babylon after Jerusalem and the nation fell in 586 BC. So Isaiah 35 is picturing a time when they're going to get to go home. You know, for some of our students who are in college right now, they're getting ready to come home at the end of a semester. And those of us who went to college, I don't care how old you are, I still remember that wonderful feeling when I had finished my final exam, my final paper, and started tooling down the highway in Maine to come back home, and how that felt. Well, Isaiah 35 is about a highway in a sense. It's about a holy way, God's path, and it's this incredible vision of all of creation seeing and experiencing God's glory. And the particular verse I want to highlight is verse 8, which says, "A highway shall be there, and it shall be called the Holy Way. The unclean shall not travel on it, but it shall be for God's people. No traveler, not even fools, shall go astray." In the days before Google Maps and Siri and everything else, have you ever been driving and gotten lost? Most of us who are watching this are old enough to have gotten lost in the days when all we had were paper maps, and if we didn't have paper maps, we were in trouble. And we might even have to stop and ask for directions. Can you imagine? And Isaiah is describing a time when God's way will be so clear, God's holy path will be so clear that not even a fool can get lost. We all can follow it. And Isaiah 35 is a passage that's often associated with Advent and with the coming of Christ, because it says earlier in the chapter, "Strengthen the weak hands, make firm the feeble knees. Say to those who are of fearful heart, be strong, do not fear. Here is your God." And it goes on to talk about how the eyes of the blind shall be opened, the ears of the deaf unstopped, and the lame shall leap like a deer. And these are all things that are foretelling a time in the future. And for those of us who follow Christ, we hear these descriptions and we say, this is describing Jesus and what he would do after he was born and grew up and began his ministry. I pray as you look at your own life, maybe even when you're driving, it can be a reminder to ask yourself, am I on God's holy way? Am I walking in the path that God has for me?